So we're beginning a new year, new cycle. We're starting with Genesis, and this year we're going to go with Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, the Ha-hayyim of Morocco, his majestic commentary on the Torah. And I want to start, so last week, Vezot Bracha, or last week, what we read just a few days ago to sort of close the circle, we brought the Ha-hayyim who said the reason it says that Moses was a man of God, Isha Elokim, the only time was to emphasize that what made Moses the most unique person that he was, the greatest leader, that he was the most humble, wasn't because that was a natural characteristic of his, but because he worked at being God-fearing more than anyone else. And it's when someone works to be God-fearing, what that means, then you can become the best version of yourself. And it seemed like Ha-hayyim, given the time that we read Vezot Bracha, he's really trying to give you a tshuva tip, like how to be better for the following year. And then I start reading his commentary on Genesis, and lo and behold, there is what seems like one of the most beautiful interpretations of what yirah, what God-fearing can give you, especially after a year that we've had. And he says here, so he starts with Bereshit, that one of the, what Reshit alludes to is a verse in Isaiah that talks about fearing God. And then he says, fearing God is his treasure. So to fear God is a person's treasure. And then he says the meaning of this is that fearing God is the treasure of hope in the heart. Being able to be God-fearing genuinely is what gives humanity, what gives the individual hope. Right? This is such a powerful thing. And then he says, because it allows you to cleave yourself to God's light. Meaning when you know that God is everywhere and everything that happens is due to God, that enables you to be hopeful because you know things will be good. And this brings me to the next bit that I want to bring, and that is simply to sort of cram in his most beautiful commentary, or one of his beautiful commentaries, on the first couple of verses. Right, the first couple of verses of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, and the darkness upon the surface of the deep, and the divine presence hovered upon the surface of the waters. We're always like, what is this all on about? And he says something beautiful. He gives you a sort of, history 101. He says, the fact that it says that in the beginning God created heaven and earth says to you that you leave what you love most for last, which means that heaven is important, but earth is the most important thing. Meaning being real is being here in the physical world, right? This is a Hasidic teaching, and it's the Ha-hayyim. No wonder the Baal Shem Tov loved him. The Baal Shem Tov had once said, if I only get to Israel when the Ha-hayyim is there, then the Messiah will come. So the Ha-hayyim is great, and we need to learn his commentary. And so he says here that, I lost my train of thought. So he says, firstly, he starts, the reason it says earth after heavens is that God appreciates and loves the earth more than anything that is us. And that leads us to our next thing, and that is because we are humans and we are flesh and bones, we can also do wrong things. And then he says, if you look at, and the land was tow and bow allude to the exiles of the Jewish people. Because if you take tow and bow, the numeric value of them is 430, which alludes to the first exile in Egypt. And then bohu, he says bohu, he quotes a verse regarding Nebuchadnezzar and the exile into Babylon, is that it's emptiness, and this is the second exile, and so it's going to be dreary and it's going to be dark because people do evil things. But then he says, Veruach Elokim merachefet, and God that is hovering, the Spirit of God, alludes to the Messiah. And this connects to being God-fearing, that we should always be hopeful that in the end, everything is going to be great, and this is the Messiah coming. And how can we be hopeful? How can we be God-fearing? Through the waters. And what is water? Torah, through studying Torah. So the very beginning of Genesis with Ha-hayyim, we should study Torah in order to be hopeful, in order to be God-fearing, in order to understand history, in order to understand the happily ever after. Shabbat Shalom.